Hello, everybody. Make sure we can all hear. I'm going to wait a second to give everybody a chance to join up, say hello, as is often the case on these live streams. Something I got to check on Twitter anyway. Wearing everyone's favorite shirt. I like how it says there's one person watching and there's like 20 people in the chat already. That's YouTube using the Dominion view counter machine. Well, that escalated. Hello, all 500 of you. So, title of this is Level 4 Solar Storm, Ask Anything. Today, you're not going to hear any of this watch the playlist stuff. Feeling pretty energized, feeling like I'm in a pretty good mood. So whatever it is that needs to be asked, go ahead and do it. But before we get started here, hold off on those super chats just a moment. We are in a KP8 level 4 geomagnetic storm. The CME impact occurred at least 5 or 6 hours before it was anticipated to have occurred. One second, I'm going to check this in the solar wind stream. Yeah, and we actually had some preconditioning. So if you look at the solar wind, it should be fairly obvious when the coronal mass ejection struck Earth. You'll notice a couple hours before that, the phi angle flipped, and that actually began jacking up the KP index right before CME impact. The combination of those two things are an excellent explanation for why we are where we are in terms of the KP index. Chris, good to see you. Thank you very much. And so, yeah, definitely going to see some auroras tonight. I don't know how far south they're going to be going, but I can assure you that when the sun goes down here in Colorado, I'm going to be looking north, hoping to see some of those. It has actually been 20 years since I have seen aurora. It was back in Pittsburgh in 2003 for the Halloween storms. Lori, good to see you. Thank you for the teal pair, starting us off with a bang. Gotta love it. So even though this is a KP8, level 4 geomagnetic storm, and we should still have some minor technological issues, really the main concern is going to be meteorological, physiological, and psychological. If we do get electrical disturbances, they are very unlikely to be the kind of thing that comes to mind when you think of the solar kill shot. We really need the KP9, level 5 geomagnetic storms. Even at KP8, we would still need something about at least 10 times stronger to be seeing the solar kill shot levels where grids are really impacted, but should be seeing an uptick in electrical fires, transmission errors, things with the communications industry. Large-scale systems could have glitches or outages. This is definitely something to be expected. We can expect a bit of a tightening up of some of the jet streams. We should expect positive influence on the North Atlantic Oscillation, the Pacific Decadal Oscillation, the ENSO. Of course, we are already sliding into an El Nino right now. This will fortify that pretty significantly. I think that over the next couple of weeks, we should probably be seeing El Nino really settle in after this triple La Nina event that we just had. And since we are at the level 4 geomagnetic storm, I was mentioning in yesterday's second video that really most of the physiological and psychological impacts were going to be to the already high-risk patients, cardiac, autoimmune, those who are prone to seizures, migraines, those with MS, those with hospitalizable depression, those who are naturally emotionally unstable. Thank you, Wes. Good to see you there. But when we get to this level 4 storm, now we can say that everybody in the world is going to have at least minute impacts on their blood pressure and their heart rate. Again, for most people, this isn't going to kill you. You know, if you can go from being fine when you're laying down about to go to sleep to being fine when you're taking a brisk walk around the neighborhood, the impact on blood pressure and heart rate is going to be about the same. Michelle asked, what are the long-term effects of a KP8 storm? There really are no long-term effects. All of these are quite acute during the storm peak and for anywhere from 24 to 48 hours afterwards. Good question, though. Fair question. In addition to that, every single person is going to be taking a little bit of a hit on their cognitive side. We call that cognitive diminution. Everybody's emotion should be a little bit more in play. This does not necessarily mean it's negative for everybody. I'm an individual who happens to feel a little worse during solar flares, but during geomagnetic storms, I tend to feel a little bit better. And I know that there's not any general rule, no umbrella that can be put over the entire population in terms of large-scale impacts where this is going to be happening to everybody. Everybody responds to energy a little bit differently. So prove your psychological bona fides, Ben. Sing the ABC song. I'm not going to sing the ABC song. Sorry, I'm not going to do that. But anyway, so yeah, we definitely have quite a bit of atmospheric absorption already. Anybody who, when they see something like this, I know a lot of you have been on the NASA websites, the NOAA websites, you've seen the D region absorption prediction. High frequency radio communication is absolutely impossible in the Arctic Circle at this time. And global total electron contents are being impacted. In the morning news, I will be showing you some of the ground level perturbations that we saw as the impact and solar storm began. They were quite significant in some areas. Again, not that terrible. Arch says the KP is still at 2. Man, you need to go check the KP again. You're not looking in the right place. KP hit 8. It probably should drop down a little bit in the next couple of hours, but then we're going to be going through the magnetic wake of that CME while Earth's magnetic field has what they call its reverberations from the geomagnetic storm. And so we may see a rise back up, might come back up to level 4. Not entirely sure. Pinup Prepper, thank you for the T.O. pair. T. Cole. Technically, El Nino means the sun, like S-O-N, the little boy, but okay. Good to see you anyway. You still have my photo as your icon, I see there. For those who are just joining us, wearing your favorite shirt, something I will mention, we were talking about this morning, and we've probably gone over, 100 different signs like this, but just this morning we were talking about how the energetic particle precipitation really started to become a factor in some of the stratospheric indices in the 1950s and moving forward, indicating that, that was when Earth's magnetic field had declined enough that those energetic particles could really be seen deviating the observations from what had been seen prior to that. And here today, we're, even though the CME struck early, just looking at the telemetry, I don't see anything here that screams out to me level 4 geomagnetic storm. I really don't. We have been getting a couple of signatures of pretty fast solar wind. I would say that if I had known the solar wind was going to be exactly this and it was only going to be, approximately a 2-day travel time to Earth, I might have suggested that KP 7, which is a level 3 storm, would have been a more appropriate forecast compared to what NOAA and NASA put out. But even with it being a relatively strong impact, level 4 is kind of a lot here. Don't forget, We started the channel in 2011. I got to do this all the way through Sunspot Cycle 24. I have seen probably 7 or 8 dozen CME impacts. I know what they look like. I know what they should be producing geomagnetically. This has produced a bit more than I would have expected. Let me jump on some super chats here. Denise, thank you very much. Hello. Denise says, yesterday evening, super emotional. This morning, super sleepy. This evening, super energized. Even my German Shepherd puppy is off the charts, energized. More than usual, biting again. Sorry to hear that. When we had him, broke from that. Oh, yeah. Unusual stuff happens. Thank you and love the shirt. Isn't this shirt awesome? Thank you, Denise. This shirt is outstanding. Derek says, as I scroll too far, eyes open, no fear. First thing I listen to each morning. I'm a believer. Right on, buddy. I love to hear that. Top prayers to you, my friend. DOC, Ben, why you so sexy? I really need to read these super chats before I just start talking out loud. Thank you, I guess. All right, next one. Ruth says, off topic, are we getting an El Nino this year? Yeah, definitely. We're already basically trending there. The last time I looked at the El Nino and La Nina data, the ENSO data was about 2.5 weeks ago, and we were on the precipice of El Nino already. Wouldn't be shocked if we are there now. And if not, every geomagnetic storm has a positive influence on the ENSO. Positive takes us towards El Nino, negative takes us towards La Nina. So I would say 99% chance that we're going to be hearing about El Nino in the coming weeks, coming months. Annie Gunderson, good to see you, and thank you for the teal pair. Appreciate that very much. That makes me happy. Levi and Loki, had a great time meeting with you and Kat and Elgin. Oh, yes, absolutely. Elgin was a good time. The bonfire was awesome. Daddy got a little too close, almost melted. Prism Planet says, stay salty and suspicious, Ben. I will do my best, but got to admit I'm in a pretty good mood here this evening. Skull Shot Gaming, Black Hills National Forest, South Dakota as a bug out location. Are you the one who sent me that email earlier? I'd have to do a little bit more looking at that. In general, South Dakota has some positives and South Dakota has some negatives. Think about what the winters get like in South Dakota now. Picture them slightly worse, and picture you don't have any electricity. If that doesn't bother you at all, rock on there. If you're the one who sent me that email, if, as you said, it's in one of the high points of South Dakota, even better. I do expect some of the low points to be flooded. No doubt about that. But of course, the main issue with the Dakotas is the winters are unbelievably brutal. I mean, it's nothing for me to see a -30 or a -40 there during the wintertime. What if it's -50 and you don't have power? Yes, it can be done, but that's what you should be thinking about in terms of preparing for the intermediate time. Power goes out till pole flip and micronova. That's really what you should be thinking about if South Dakota is your choice. Renegade says, this is why I day drink. Yeah. Anyway. Curious, guys, how's the feed coming in? Am I blurry or am I clear? Sam says, do you think Elon watches your channel? And if so, what would you say to him if he did? And I've had a love-hate relationship with Elon over the years. I started off years ago respecting him, but also kind of being like childishly jealous that he was doing all this cool stuff. Then for a while, it seemed like he was giving no respect to cosmic rays in terms of his plans to go to Mars, which I still think is a terrible idea. Got to admit, ever since he took over Twitter, I mean, he's really given back in that way. And I don't know if it's the couple more years I have on me now, but I take a look at Tesla, SpaceX, his Boring Company, his past, what the companies he built. Respect, respect. But to be honest, I don't think he watches the show. When poles flip, how long are they in that position? 12,000 years. Remember what Major White found in the Arctic? 12,000 years of polar fossils, 10,000 years tropical, polar, tropical. It's an entire cycle of the opposite climate fossils. And so we're going to go like this, and we're going to stay like that for 12,000 years. Fair question. I know a lot of you guys are probably wondering, well, why didn't you just tell them to watch the playlist? I'm in a good mood today. We're doing everything we can to actually answer your questions. Yes, I'm blurry. Okay. Are there any known indications a pole shift is near? There's plenty of them, but none of them are actually here at this moment. I'm sticking to my 2030s to 2040s timeline. Yes, I have continued to see progression. Bruce says Kong Pop did a good upload today. I enjoyed. Oh, that's fantastic. I have not talked to him in many years. Naked Sage, you are welcome to think Tamika Slav is better. Do you know she hates the observers? She thinks the sun has absolutely no impact on climate. She thinks that the magnetic pole shift is nothing to be afraid of. Enjoy your thirst trap, bro. Yeah, she knows space weather. Once you get into it, this isn't all that hard. See somebody asking about the Ozarks. I know so many people like the Ozarks. I absolutely hate that option. The New Madrid fault line is going to shake that place to bits. It will not escape the floods. It will not escape some of the other bad weather. That, and it's not exactly a bug out location anymore. When millions of people have the idea of going to the Ozarks, you're going to be surrounded by millions of people there. And a lot of them are going to be pretty darn dangerous too. Guaranteed. Pinup Prepper. Let me scroll back up there. Slacker question, property shopping. What is the recommendation? Safe elevation in California? I don't know if there's any safe locations in California. Does that mean everybody in California at every location is guaranteed to be screwed? No. The problem is in California, the trouble is more the earthquakes, the volcanoes, the weather, and the population rather than the tsunami. I mean, unless you're in San Diego, in which case the Gulf of California is absolutely going to come up and flood San Diego. But yeah, in California, you've got too many other things to be concerned about. So elevation, I mean, you still want to be high up in elevation, as far away from those people as you can. Even if they say some of the nearby volcanoes are dormant or extinct, don't believe it. Can't guarantee that. And as I said, the earthquakes are going to be pretty bad. And Jolly says, Ben, do you believe in conscious communication with higher beings like Noah experienced? Yeah, kind of. Problem is, while I see scientific reason to believe, every single person online who I have seen claiming to do it, I can find hypocrisies and I can find ways that they're lying. And I also happen to be pretty good at poker, and it's easy to tell when some of these people aren't being entirely genuine, and that's very disappointing, especially because I'm a person who does believe there is a scientific rationale to think that this stuff is possible. Sam says Observer Ranch is looking great, by the way. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. And by the way, a lot of you guys are emailing, still getting a lot of emails from people who are emailing from a skill perspective, asking how they can contribute with their skills and things like that. You guys are so greatly appreciated, but we are still not quite at the inclusion via skill aspect at this point. We're just not there yet. We are in the phase 2 investor stage at this moment. Basically, you'd be my business partner, Kat and I. And those who are already on board are pretty cool as well. I really like them all. They're all great observers. So if that is you, if that's something you want to do, click on observerranch.com down there in the link list below the video. Contact us through the website. We'll have a chat about it. Send you some information. Okay. I got to catch up on some super chats here. Hey, Liz, what's up? Just logged in, maybe question answered already. Did we get to KP8-ish today? Yes, we did. Also, crazy headache and in a not so great mood, feeling salty. Oh, I'm sorry, Liz. Yes, we hit KP8. We were not expecting that, but heart goes out to you. You're awesome. Feel better, please. Hawk says, what are likely impacts to submarines during catastrophe or grid kill shot? That's a good question. Some submarines could get lucky. Other submarines could basically be very, very unlucky. The submarine volcanoes and the mantle heaving impact on the thin crust at the bottom of the ocean, there's a lot to be concerned about. Not to mention if they're too close to land, they could get washed up onto land. So T. Cole, I actually looked into that. He's asking about this aurora photo on Twitter. That was actually from yesterday morning. So that wasn't even due to the geomagnetic storm, which is perplexing, to say the least. If anything, I would say it is not a good sign for Earth's magnetic field. Synergy Healing and Balance, good to see you. Thank you. OGSIII, thank you for the teal pair. You know that made me happy. Frank says, turned my parents onto you 7 years ago. Mom's birthday is in 10 days and she retires. Awesome. Can I get a birthday shout out for all the prepping she has done since watching you? Her name is Yvonne. Thanks, man. So I will give her an early birthday shout out right now, just because you've done this here on the live chat. I probably get, if I were to do this, I would be giving 5 to 10 birthday shout outs every single day. I get a lot of those requests. Think about it. There's 365 days a year and almost 700,000 observers. There's multiple observers with birthdays every year, and I do get that request a lot. But Yvonne, happy early birthday. Great to hear that your family in general is on the right track. And please enjoy retirement in whatever way you see fit. Man, Stormy sniping people already. Look at that. Stormy, is it itchy? Is it itchy? Skullshot Gaming says, I hear no one talk about Lincoln National Forest, New Mexico. Thoughts? Real estate prices are reasonable. Also, New Valley of the Sun, Satellite Ranch. Maybe. To be honest, the Satellite Ranch stuff, we're probably more than a year and a half, maybe 2 years away from any satellite ranches being thrown up there. I like New Mexico in general. There are several places in New Mexico I would consider fantastic. The main problem with New Mexico is it's borderline draconian and getting worse. That and the criminal element there is more than anybody realizes who doesn't live there. Amanona says, I'm so new. What's the East Coast looking like? Bad. Bad. It's going to be flooded. The weather's going to be bad. I wish I had some good news for the East Coast. I really just don't. Same for the Gulf Coast. It's going to be brutal. Timothy, you said Costa Rican volcano just erupted. Is that true? Okay. Rincon. All right, I will check that out. It says it was yesterday, but I'll check that out too. I didn't see that as of this morning. Synergy, Healing, and Balance. I've watched you every morning for years. Makes me happy. Appreciate that. Gabriel says, Virgin Islands is where the continental shelf broke. North of it runs through Puerto Rico, the trench. Maybe these Antillean mountaintops survived the last cataclysm. What do you see for the Caribbean? A lot of flooding. A lot of flooding, a lot of earthquakes, a lot of volcanoes. The Caribbean plate's probably not going to do well. I mean, it'll probably do better than the Cocos plate right next to it, but the Caribbean plate's going to be rough. And there's significant chances for land subsidence there. You know, when we talk about land rising, land falling, Caribbean has a good chance to fall. Is that guaranteed? By no means. Big Dummy, fun name. Thoughts on an insulated bunker in the North Georgia mountains, USA? You know, in Georgia, I'm not sure there's any mountains that are really high enough. And the main concern would be, even if you get down in the bunker, even if it's insulated, even if you can close it off, are you going to be underwater when you try to get out? Are you going to be flooded? Are you going to have, you know, thousands of tons of trees and dirt and sand on top of you and you can't get out? You know, picture the Texas rock wall. This thing covered up 70-foot high walls with sediment. The deposition of these waves is phenomenal. Chad Douglas, actually, I am not an attorney. And even if I was, I don't see how having a law degree negates all of my other degrees. I don't see how that negates the peer-reviewed papers that I have. I don't see how it negates the dozens of professors and NASA scientists who have cited my papers, or the fact that my physics textbook is used in dozens of universities. Try again, Chad. You don't deserve that first name. Chad, loser. Is the west side of Iowa a decent place? Low population, but what about the flooding? Yeah, I think it's going to flood. And don't forget, the winds, the tornadoes, the lightning, all going to be a lot worse than it is right now. And yes, Iowa should probably get flooded pretty badly. T. Cole says, as I scrolled too far, are you concerned about the wells you dug collapsing when the crust unlocks? No, because they are a beforehand solution. We're not going to have any problem getting water after that. We're not going to have any problem getting water at all after that. I missed a lot here. All right. With all the money we send to Ukraine, you think America could just be manufacturing a big solar blanket, you know, to help Americans? Yeah, I'm not sure we could. I'm not sure that's even possible, but we should definitely stop sending all this money to Ukraine. It's complete nonsense. It's estimated that only 10% of the population will be around after grids go down. Are people going to be real concerned before the... Yeah, people are going to be a real concern before the flip. The moment the grids go down, it's over. Like, yes, we have a worse catastrophe coming, but the world as we know it's over, and we're in survival mode. Everybody's in survival mode at that point. W. Decker says, do micronovas have an effect on planetary orbits? Thank you for educating us and keeping us up to date. I appreciate it. It's possible, but see, here's the thing. If it had any major impact on the orbit, we would see that in the climate, in the paleoclimate data. And millions of years ago, Earth wouldn't have been habitable. We would have been too close to the sun. And so if there is an impact on planetary orbits, it's got to be extremely minute, extremely minute. Pinna Prepper, thoughts about God's promise to Noah? If you're talking about the promise to not flood the world again, first of all, I've been saying this a bunch of times. First, I am a believer. Second, a lot of parts of that book have been changed, used to control us and control how we think. Third, back then, if you actually do some research, the world didn't mean the entire earth. To them, somebody in Israel could say our world, and it meant Israel. Egypt was another world. The Arabian desert was another world. The oceans were another world. That's how they talked. And so that part of the world is promised to not be flooded this next time. And guess what? With the way the Earth's tilting, that part of the world is not going to be flooded. It's going to get the fire. John Q. Glass, appreciate all you do. I appreciate you, my friend. Ken Smith, will air temp have any effect in seeing aurora tonight in upper Midwest? I don't know if air temperature does, but clouds certainly do. The auroras are basically up at the mesosphere, ionosphere, at most top of the stratosphere. So just air temperature in general shouldn't have any impact on seeing aurora. Shannon, thank you for the teal pair. Makes me happy. All right. Susie Rose Finley, thank you for the teal pair. Makes me happy. You know that already, though. Okay, we're almost caught up. Robert Tatro, thank you for the teal pair. Sam Tolliday, thank you for the teal pair. Oh, the desalinization over on this side of the camera is phenomenal at the moment. Southern Bama, what's up, my friend? Where will the new equator be in relation to Colorado? Will the pole shift 180 or 90? Been trying to find in the playlist. Thanks so much. Sorry if it's been answered already. That is just fine. No worries. I'm in a good mood today. We're tilting 90 degrees. Colorado will be in approximately the same latitude, but on the southern hemisphere. And everything else will be flipped. So New Mexico, Arizona, that's going to feel more like Montana and the Dakotas, and vice versa. Florida will feel more like Maine. Maine will feel more like Florida. Is that helpful? I hope so. Gabriel says, the issue of seasteading has risen with prominence lately. Public ally entering the discourse. What are your thoughts on any forms of floating infrastructure that might be a good solution, and where? I'll start off by saying that if you have no other option, yes, try to float away. But it's not the best option. One, because it's hard to float away with all of your supplies, with everything to make your new castle, with everything you're going to need. And so you're not in as good a position as if you are located somewhere where you don't need to float away. Second, just take a look at the Fukushima tsunami. The trees, the cars, the houses, the rocks that are going to be in this wave, they're going to crush, I don't want to say everything, but almost everything. An inflatable certainly not going to work, put it that way. I would say take what I just said and apply it the best you can with your knowledge and your situation. Am I caught up yet? No. John, thank you. Appreciate that. Boy, time just flies by here. I appreciate the breather, guys. Thank you. Just going rapid fire there for a second. Let's check in on where the KP index is at the moment. Oh, it says we're back up at level 4 geomagnetic storms. Folks in Florida, has anybody on the East Coast, has the sun gone down yet? Like, is it dark there, or is it still kind of like the sky is still painted from the sun that's just below the horizon? Because if we're still at KP4, KP8 right now, I mean, great chance to see aurora. Great chance to see aurora. No doubt about it. Maggie, thank you for that. Appreciate it. Make sure I didn't miss anybody there. Prism Planets, did you say the pole shift lasts 12,000 years? Yes. I mean, it doesn't take 12,000 years to shift. It shifts in about a day, and then you stay there for 12,000 years before it shifts back. That's the only way to get 12,000-year layers of polar fossils, tropical fossils, polar fossils, tropical fossils over and over again. It has to stay there for the duration. I scrolled too fast. I saw somebody ask if there's any safe places in Idaho. Some, not all. By the way, those who just joined, isn't my shirt awesome? And by the way, I have a question. the way the camera is this reading backwards for you guys, or do you see this reading appropriately? Like, because from when I'm looking at my camera, everything's backwards. Like it says HAON. It reads correctly for you guys. All right, I feel better about that. Stupid camera. Wow, you guys all answered that question, didn't you? All right, so I've missed a couple of super chats here. Maggie Smith, good to see you. Thank you. ABB Ware says, have you looked at the asteroid coming in 2029, Apophis and its relation to Revelation 8? So I would say that before the last update, Apophis scared me a lot more than it does now. And I went in and I checked the observations after the new data came out. It does appear slightly less likely than it was before. I mean, it was already a small chance of impact, and that chance is now smaller. We'll wait and see as it gets closer. But for the time being, 2029 is a ways away, and we've got a lot we're going to go through between now and then. Dylan says, my cellular service went down temporarily. I'm in New York City. Does it have to do with this? Nobody in the planet could say definitively yes or no, but that's the exact kind of thing I was talking about. Telecom, internet, any large-scale system based on electricity is going to be at high risk, very high risk right now for outages, glitches, downtime, things like that. Rom shoots, are the Pyrenees Mountains a good safe zone? I don't know where those are. Carla, we actually have quite a bit of knowledge on food preservation. All right, since I have a second and I'm in a fantastic mood, let's figure out where those are. Oh, the Pyrenees in Europe. There are better options, put it that way. Will there probably be somewhere in the Pyrenees that makes it? Maybe, possibly, perhaps even probably. Will a ton of the Pyrenees area be completely mashed? Oh, yeah. Going to be rough. Holy moly. How about West Virginia, the best Virginia? There's places that might be okay. There are places that almost certainly won't be okay. As you guys are going to see in the morning show tomorrow, when I show the actual ground electrical impact from this solar storm, the Appalachians, for reasons that are not fully understood, I would have to imagine they have to do with geochemistry. The Appalachians take much more powerful induction. And if you're not in the actual Appalachians on the East Coast, you're going to be flooded and completely screwed anyway. But you guys look for that tomorrow morning and look at how much worse the east side of the country and the northern central part of the country, for that matter, takes the solar induction than, say, where I am here next to the Rockies. You guys will see that tomorrow morning. Having a hard time leaving all behind. I understand. My whole life, East Coast, pick up and leave. I'll be 65, not worth surviving crescendo. Stay in Florida with Palms Beach, eat fish during Stone Age, call it during flood. To each their own. I would say that I'm a believer that our souls existed before we were born here and that we had a say in when we came here. We knew what we were going to face, and we came here for a reason. Do not give up on you. You don't have to believe that if you don't want to. I have a lot of reason to believe that's the case. Somebody's asking about Michigan. One, it's going to be flooded in this event. And before that, picture worse winters than you have now. No electricity. You good with that? If so, then just worry about the flood. Lorena Ariza, is Aztec, New Mexico a safe place? Thanks for all you do. Where is Aztec, New Mexico? That's not bad. That's not bad. Um, you're pretty close to the Navajo Nation. Um, I think that what the native attitude is going to be towards the general population of Americans after this happens, that's a big question mark. That's a big question mark. Just something to consider. In general, though, geographically, it's not bad. Lance says, hi from Australia, retired builder with 20 acres, 1,200 meters above sea level in an old mining area called Kingagate. Love the workmanship on the ranch, Ben. Would love to see more pictures. There will be more pictures as progress is made. And your area sounds okay. I don't know very much about that area in terms of population, in terms of what the normal climate is there, but I've heard of worse situations in Australia, put it that way. Oh, I knew I missed one. There you are. Jillian, thank you for the teal pair. Appreciate that. John, hello again. Thank you. Jason Smith, Texas is in big trouble. The Gulf of Mexico is coming directly north. Yes, Mexico will be much too cold during the coming cataclysm, except for people who are used to living in Canada or the Dakotas in wintertime. Oh, and by the way, when I was looking at the geoelectric maps from the event today, I could not believe how bad British Columbia was getting pounded, and parts of Alberta as well. I did not realize. Now, granted, for those of you who really keep up with observer stuff, they just added Canada to that geoelectric map. I know some of you know what I'm talking about. They just added Canada maybe 3 or 4 weeks ago. I did not realize that the western part of Canada does not act like the western part of the United States. They get hammered with the solar storm induction. I did not realize that. Aren't I just a ray of sunshine? Tons of good news. Roxanne, good to see you. That's a cute little thing there. Blue says, of the survivors, elites, and prepared alike, what story will be laid out for future civilizations? How accurate and or corrupted would you guess? It would depend on who's telling the story. And how much power those individuals have over time. I would imagine a sliding scale. Staying up to look for aurora. Think they'll be visible in Kansas? I'd say you got a 50-50 shot. Especially if the KP remains this high. Let me check in on that again here. All right, they haven't updated it. Clowns. Clowns! Maybe. You could see aurora. Blue Orange says, you're among the best I've seen covering the topics you discussed. Thank you very much. Appreciate that. Do you venture into the unseen things, the veil that covers everything, particularly that pertain to space topics? Answer at your discretion, sir. Yes, I do. And I find that the most extreme everything is always wrong. You know, there are people who say we're trapped here on Earth, that we can't go into space. There are people who say that there's a secret space program that is actually already traveling to other stars and this and that. The far that way and the far that way are wrong. As always, as has been the case with everything I have ever researched, the truth is found somewhere in the middle, which also happens to be the most intelligent place to be politically. Not that any of you care or watch this channel for my comments on politics. I slid that one in on you. What you going to do about it? My channel. Genuine Optimist, hello. How are the 6,000 and 12,000 year events different? Alike, see you in San Diego. I will see you in San Diego, my friend. The 6,000 year events contain a minor geomagnetic depression. It appears they do not have the full flip, and there is a major climatological event because on the 6,000 year cycle, we get about an X1000 super flare, as opposed to the solar micronova on the 12,000 year cycle. Veteran observers, you'll remember that paper about how we have the 3,000 and the 6,000 year cycles of the solar super flares, which at that point is really a mega flare. And so I would say that is really the main impact there. And so coming along with that, on the half cycles on the 6,000 year mark, we get major heating. When we get the micronova on the 12,000 year mark and the actual geomagnetic pole flip, we get cooling. I hope that was informative. Susie says, I'll be 63 in June. I've lived off the grid and I'm willing to teach anyone willing to learn. I know how to live like the Vikings. I'm not giving up. Susie, I always like your comments. I have faith in you and your family. Timothy, appreciate it. Good to see you. User Doggone It says, did you hear about the helium coming from Yellowstone? It's been underground for millions of years. Say it's a bad sign. In Florida, still talking hubby into moving. It's still blue skies and wind has calmed. Thank you. Do you know where else you notice helium coming out of volcanic areas? In places where there are effusive eruptions. If the ground can't hold in the helium, it has no way to build up pressure. And this is what I keep saying over and over again about Yellowstone. It's probably not a concern, but if it does go, it will be a bubbling over effusive eruption, kind of like the Hawaiian volcanoes that we see that do that. It does not have the ability to build up pressure to explode. Anytime pressure comes up, you get quakes, you get geothermal release, you get geysers, and apparently you get helium release as well. It's another sign that Yellowstone is broken in terms of being able to do the cataclysmic VEI-8 eruptions. Good question, though. Appreciate that very much. Dano, Jeremiah 1:5 states that Yahweh knew us before we were in the womb. Wild, isn't it? The graphics and choices of this game are way better than GTA 6. They really are, aren't they? And if I'm incorrect, please let me know. But I'm going to presume that that was a little nod to what I said earlier about us choosing to be here, us being here at this time for a reason, and to not give up on yourself. Ian says, so Appalachia is SOL for the most part. For those who don't know, that means shit out of luck. Curious, since my job is region-based and the boss out there sucks. I'm sorry to hear that. Appalachia in general is not great. Don't forget, last time when we tilted the other way, it was the Pacific sending the wave and the Rockies didn't stop it. I don't think the Appalachian Mountains have any chance of stopping the Atlantic. I just don't think there's any chance of that at all. And again, it takes geomagnetic induction for some reason, again, likely geochemical, much worse than the Rockies do. I'm going like this, like you can see out my freaking window and me pointing at Pikes Peak right there. Yeah, I have an awesome view. Hal says, hey, dude, just a friendly heads up on the image quality of the stream is extremely poor. Yeah, I know. Audio is fine. After we lose power, what's the sun going to look like right before the flip? How long will that take? So Earth doesn't flip until the crust is unlocked by the micronova. The sun will turn red and the sun will turn black. The micronova will blast off the shell that is making it look black. And when the shell hits Earth, that induction will unlock the crust. So I guess the answer is red and then black to your question. Man, it's hard to keep up with all these today. Grateful Preps says, hello from the Jersey Shore. Hello to you. What's your plan there on the Jersey Shore when the Atlantic attacks? Ride Snooki to the new Valley of the Sun? That was in poor taste. But I'd make that joke again. Nisha T, thank you very much. Appreciate it. You look familiar, Nisha. I don't know where from. Daniel happened to catch that question. What do I think about the plasma density and speed blips on ACE in the 100 to 1,000 particles and 800 to 1,000 kilometers range? Is this really a glitch? Also, KP8 today, question mark. Yes, Daniel, I can tell you weren't here at the beginning of the show. This show is about the fact we are in a level 4 KP8 geomagnetic storm. I'm not sure how much those are glitches, how much they are reality. What I can tell you is we saw CMEs like this several times last cycle, and they were producing level 2 to level 3 storms. Also, this was what, like this wasn't even an M2 solar flare that released this CME. Really, there's nothing to suggest we should have gotten a KP8 level 4. From the flare to the look of the CME to the solar wind telemetry. Don't get me wrong. It is a strong impact. This was not a weak impact. But again, as I said, I've already been through an entire solar cycle here on this channel. I've seen dozens and dozens of CME impacts and know exactly what they should be doing in terms of the KP index. This is a little much. Dieter says, not done with the playlist. Any lands rising? Not yet, but there will be. Some land will rise, some land will fall. And it's very challenging at this point to know what they will be. Some of them we can infer. So, for example, the center of the United States, probably going to descend. In addition to the fact that, innumerable previous forecasted or prophesized maps showed the center of the United States basically underwater. The New Madrid Fault probably going to do some splitting. And when the Gulf of Mexico rushes up, remember, isostatic readjustment is still a thing, that what they call post-glacial rebound. That means as the Gulf of Mexico rushes up into the center of the United States, the center of the United States will be weighed down and the Gulf of Mexico will rise up a bit like that. Other than that, it's really hard to know what land is going to do what. Really hard. That's what she said. Double duty. Can you recommend a short video that we can share with our ignorant family and central lower Canada close to any safe zones? Recommend a short video? No. And here's a bit of advice. You do not talk about Fight Club. Maybe drop some breadcrumbs here and there. Everybody I have seen try to talk to their friends or their family about this has been met with resistance, to put it lightly. I've seen people lose friends over this. I have seen marriages broken by this topic. Seriously. Southern Central Canada does not have any safe zones, unfortunately. WW, I have not seen that teal pear gift before. I like that one. 10 points. That's fantastic. Look at that. It's like a cheerleader teal pear with purple pom-poms. How direct was the CME aimed at Earth? Play an effect on current strength of the KP index? It was directly Earth-facing. I mean, popped directly at the Earth. Even still, I'm looking at the solar wind. Yeah, it was a strong impact. But level 2, level 3 geomagnetic storms. Level 4, it's a bit excessive. Probably an indication of Earth's weakening magnetic field, leaving the Earth more vulnerable to these solar storms, if I had to guess. Yeah, and speaking of that, if any of you out here are in the middle of or getting into today or later on tonight or tomorrow, get into a fight with your significant other, Chill the out. Chill out. It's the sun. Forgive. Take a breather. Take a pill. Something. A level 4 geomagnetic storm is highly impactful, and it is certainly no reason to be losing love. Promise you that. Donna, thank you very much. I'm scrolling so fast. I'm so bad at that. Mickey says, approximately how long until the Twin Cities, Minnesota, will be submerged under the Gulf of Mexico? A couple hours after the Earth goes like that. The whole thing takes a day. Just a couple hours. Working to get family on board, says Grateful Prep. Slowly and carefully, then get them to move to Colorado with me. My sis and I came to Buffalo. Oh, right on. I think I remember who you were. Buffalo was a fun event, wasn't it? What do you think about in and around the Cibolo National Forest in New Mexico? Same thing I said about the other areas in New Mexico. There are a lot of positives about New Mexico. There are definitely some negatives about New Mexico. Especially after the flip, it'll be much, much colder. Be as far away as possible from the reservations. Make sure you've got a good water source. But in general, New Mexico's not bad. In general. So could the galactic current sheet be interacting with the solar wind in a way that's resulting in increased solar impacts and the ace stereo blips? I don't know. Maybe. But, even like I said, I don't think that what's weird about this is not the telemetry of the solar wind. What's weird about this is this telemetry of solar wind creating a KP8, level 4 geomagnetic storm. So, for example, let's say you get a 50-mile-an-hour wind gust. You're going to feel that, and you're going to be like, wow, this is not an everyday occurrence. But you're not going to sit there and say to yourself, oh, the world's going to end. We have because you've had a 50-mile-an-hour wind gust at some point before. If it blows down every building in the city, you're going to be like, okay, why did that happen? If it was 50 miles an hour, that's a significant wind gust, but it shouldn't be taking down every building in the city. That's like what we're having right now. Yes, this was a strong impact, but nothing about the telemetry confuses me. What confuses me is I've seen this level of impact before, and I've never seen it produce a KP8 level 4 geomagnetic storm. I hope that's a helpful answer. I'm trying to be helpful today. Trying not to be too salty. What do you think of the wild magnetometer reading? Is that concerning? Again, it's really not all that wild. Let me go take a look at it again here. Goes magnetometer. Yeah. This is not all that wild given what the KP index is. Flipped us into the negatives. Yeah, Earth's magnetic field got flipped around a couple times today. It has resumed its normal state. Some of those deviations are pretty powerful, though. Still 4 to 10 times weaker than the Carrington event. What's concerning about the magnetometer reading is, again, the solar wind shows a strong impact, but not that strong. When the solar wind is having a greater than expected impact on Earth's magnetic field, on the aurora, things like that, you have to say, that's Earth's weakening magnetic field, letting in more and more, Earth becoming more and more vulnerable. I don't know if I'm being helpful. Like, am I explaining this stuff like, okay? I'm trying not to be salty today. I'm trying to be as helpful as humanly possible. Forerunner, thank you for the teal pair. Makes me happy. Chad, anyone working on SO social app yet? If not, I'm on it. Yeah, a bunch of people are working on it. A bunch of people started working on it and have communicated to me they're making progress. without even telling me or talking to me or asking me a single question. I don't know what to do about that. Somebody inquired about where Eyes Open, No Fear originated. Eyes Open, No Fear is basically mine. I think that when you are into these topics, it is important that you never go back to sleep. Once you wake up, you're up. You're keeping your eyes on everything. And no fear is important because while some of this is concerning, some of it is scary, there is an appropriate reaction to that. You should be proactive in reaction to those things. Fear is a thief of time, focus, energy, purpose. If you had asked where the name Suspicious Observers came from, that's a fun story. All right, while we're waiting for the next super chat, I'll tell you. So the name Suspicious Observers came from one of my heroes at NASA who, any thoughts on level Earth theory? No, complete nonsense. One of my heroes at NASA who, when I first started this up, he was really heavily focused on the idea that the sun creates earthquakes. Veteran observers, you might know who that is at this point. He is retired now. But he said, Ben, you seem to have a good head on your shoulders, and you seem to be pretty good at translating your due diligence research skills into this area. So to give you a piece of advice. And he said, Ben, if you really want to make any progress, if you ever want to make a difference in this kind of field of science where you're going against everybody else, you have to be observing everything, not just your chosen field, not just what you're interested in that day, but how do things in geology affect things from space science? How does atmospheric electricity affect seismicity? How do things from the sun and things from the galaxy and what we call space weather affect climate, affect all these different things? Take that Renaissance interdisciplinary view. And while you're doing so, always be suspicious of the notion that we've got it all figured out, because the entire history of science is them thinking they had it all figured out and then science changing. Be a suspicious observer at all times. Oh, Susie, where'd that go? Hi, Susie. I have people open and accepting for the Fight Club, pointing them to the playlist, looking at North Central New Mexico for Observer 2.0, a Viking community. Could be fun. Jose says, is either half of Washington a somewhat safe zone? I mean, maybe. I think that the earthquakes and probably even volcanoes there will be rough. The far eastern part of Washington, much better than the far western part of Washington. But that's really as much as I feel comfortable saying about that state in general. I see how hard it is to keep up with all these. Daniel again, had to make a bank transfer for these. Yes, you're helpful. My family always argues, and there was a steady increase since Friday. Thanks for your time. You're much appreciated as well, Daniel. Absolutely. What do you guys think? Should I just stay here all night answering questions? Go downstairs and get smacked by Cat? Although I haven't heard them. I haven't heard them at all. Marty, you mentioned methane deposits in Greenland discovered. Nobody knows where it came from. And you said you weren't going to touch that topic. Please elaborate. I don't remember that at all. I'm not concerned about methane. There's no part of me that is concerned about methane. And I really don't know what you're talking about, something I said in the past. I wish methane was the global warming agent that mainstream climate scientists say it was, because our future is cold. We can use all the warming we can get right now. Sean says, Miss Slav was just asked if we can expect a micronova. She replied that she doesn't enjoy this question and that astrophysics compare our boring middle-aged sun to stars such as Betelgeuse. I'm telling you, if Tamika knows space weather, But space weather's not that challenging. She hates observers. She hates the concept of micronova. She hates the concept of solar climate forcing. She hates the concept of pre-earthquake electromagnetic anomalies. She hates the notion of Earth's catastrophe cycle, and she doesn't think that Earth's changing magnetic field is anything to be afraid of. Other than that, enjoy your thirst trap. And no, she's not very nice. Earth Alchemist, thank you very much. Appreciate you. You mentioned the old maps of America as having water in the middle. What do you think about the old map showing Antarctica surrounding us? No. There's a lot of other problems with those maps as well. My agrometer has been pushing the red line all day. Now it makes sense, working on my chill. I like it. Do you think if Hapgood never screwed things up in the past, we might be ready for the micronova? I don't know if there is any getting ready for the micronova. I'm a big believer that places like Atlantis were real and that they were far more advanced than we are right now, 12,000 years ago. And they're gone. So I don't know if there is any getting ready for a micronova. T. Cole, thoughts on bringing back the woolly mammoth? Heard a company is going to try to do it. I mean, probably safer than what they did in Jurassic Park, trying to bring back dinosaurs. Is it going to work? I don't know. Will effects on Earth be different if the flip happens during solar minimum versus solar maximum? So the flip will happen during the micronova. It's the only thing strong enough to unlock the crust. And that's going to be a deep, deep minimum. Because if there's a solar maximum and there's sunspots and there's solar flares, there's no way to build up a shell in the upper corona. You got to have a deep, deep minimum for that to occur. So it's really not a question of how would it be different, solar maximum versus solar minimum. We know what it's going to take in order for the sun to have a micronova. Did you live at the time of Lemuria? No, I live right now. I'm here right now. How far can you walk into a forest? I don't understand the question. Sorry, I'm enjoying the chat section right now. All right, so let's go over what we've hit already. Number one, my shirt is freaking awesome. Number two, we're in a level 4 KP8 geomagnetic storm. I'll be showing you guys the ground magnetic disruptions in the morning news. I would expect only minor technological issues, more so with large-scale systems. Yeah, Christine, I ended up getting the joke. Thank you. The real concern is going to be meteorological. All the storms, every low-pressure cell should intensify over the next 24 hours. And there's physiological and psychological impacts. I went over a bunch from at the start of the show. If you missed that, just go back and watch it. Yeah. Do another quick update. Check the data. The data, if you will. All right, so we're still up at some pretty significant geomagnetic storm activity. If it's dark where you are, check for aurora. The higher latitude you are, the more likely it is you'll see them. I'm definitely going to go outside and be looking. But anyway, guys, this was a lot of fun. I will see you in the morning for the daily show. Be safe, everyone.